Hello, SmolCottonCreations here. Today we'll be making a small little butterfly about the shape of, or the size of this guy. Obviously he's not done yet, but this is what we're gonna make first, is the body and the antennas. So we are going to start off by making a loop. Let's see if I can get my camera to focus on my fingers. Alright, and then we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to work into that first chain we made and add a foundation single crochet. So that's where we pull up a loop, and then we're going to pull through another loop through just that one loop on our hook. And then we'll pull a loop through the 2 loops there. And then working into the bottom of that foundation single crochet, so that first loop that we had pulled up, we're going to make a foundation half double crochet. So I want to make sure to go underneath that back loop too, like so. And then we're going to again pull through just one loop on the hook, and then we'll finish our half double crochet by pulling through all 3. Now we're going to make 5 foundation double crochets. And after you make your 5 double or foundation double crochets, we're going to do another foundation half double crochet. And then we're going to do a foundation single crochet. Alright, and now we're going to start our first antenna. We'll do that by chaining 6. And then working into the second chain from the hook, we're going to add a single crochet. And then we're going to add 2 single crochets per stitch for the next 3 stitches. Oops. And then we'll add 1 single crochet into the last stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch into the bottom of our foundation single crochet there, and then we're going to chain 9 this time. And then working into the second chain from the hook again, we are going to do a single crochet. And then we're going to do 3 decrease single crochet stitches. So we'll pull up loops in 2 of the next 2 stitches, and then we will pull through both of those stitches. Again, pull up a loop in the next 2 stitches, and then pull through all 3 loops on the hook. We're going to do that one more time. And then we will add 1 final single crochet into that last chain, and then we are going to slip stitch into the same stitch we worked into the bottom of that single crochet, and then we can fasten off. And I will come back and we will work on the inner part of the wings. Alright, now we're going to work on the interior color of our butterfly. Oops, sorry. So we are going to pull up our color in not the So where we left off with the last stitch of the black, we're going to skip one stitch and work into the next stitch. So you can pull up the loop there, and then we are going to chain 3 and do a puff stitch. So the puff stitch we're going to do is going to have 4 yarn overs. So we're going to, if you've never done a puff stitch before, you're going to yarn over like this. You're going to insert your hook into that stitch here, and you're going to, the same stitch, and you're going to pull up a long loop the height of your chain 3. So again, yarn over, insert into the same exact stitch, pull up a long loop. We're going to do this 2 more times for a total of 4 yarn overs, and there should be 4 times 2, which is 8, plus 1 is 9 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over after that and pull through all 9 loops, and then slip stitch or chain 1 to finish your puff stitch. Now you're going to chain 3 and slip stitch into the next stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. So move down 1, we're going to chain 3, and then we're going to do another puff stitch into the same stitch. So we're going to yarn over, pull up a long loop times 4 times. And then we will yarn over, pull through all 9 loops on the hook, and chain 1 to finish, and then chain 3 and slip stitch into the next stitch, and we will fasten off here. I've been just doing a couple chains before I fasten off lately instead of tying a knot, because I've been sewing down my ends with the sewing machine. Alright, so now we are going to do that again on the other side, but we are going to start from the bottom so that our puff stitch is not backwards. So I will show you how to do that. We will be working in the 3rd stitch from the end. So you have your single crochet, or your foundation single crochet, your foundation half double crochet, your foundation double crochet. We're going to work in the 2nd foundation double crochet. On the other side, pull up a loop, chain 3, and then working into the next stitch, we're going to do our puff stitch. And then chain 3, and you're going to slip stitch into the same stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch, chain 3, working into the next stitch, we're going to do our puff stitch. Whoops. What is this guy doing here? I have to fix that guy later. Just ignore him. Chain 3, and then we're going to slip stitch into the same stitch and fasten off. Ooh, don't fasten down the antenna though. Alright, now we are going to add the 2nd middle color of our butterfly. So we're going to pull up that color in the same stitch that we had pulled up that puff stitch in, and we're going to pull the loop. Ugh. And then we're just going to chain 1. Ignore all of these bits that are hanging around causing issues. And then we are going to work into our chains. We're going to add 2 single crochets. So single crochet in one chain, single crochet in the next chain. And then we should have 1 chain left to work a half double crochet. And then we're going to work into the tip of our puff stitch, a double crochet, a half double crochet, and a single crochet. And then into each of our 3 chains on the side, we're going to do a single crochet into each chain. And then we're going to slip stitch into that slip stitch that doesn't include a puff stitch. And then we are going to work into each of our 3 chains here, and we're going to do a single crochet into each one of our chains here. I like to work into that one like this. Ignore my cat trying to break out of the house right now. I will let her out as soon as I'm done with this video. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do a single crochet, a half double crochet, and a double crochet into the top of that puff stitch. And then we're going to work a half double crochet into the chain here, and a single crochet into the next chain, and one more single crochet, and then we are going to slip stitch into our next stitch of the middle of our butterfly like that, and then we can fasten off, and I'll show you what that looks like. Just like that. Yeah, you'll have some ends to tie in unless you can find a kind of smoother way to fasten them down as you're going. So to do the other side of the butterfly, we're going to pull up our yarn. Oops, sorry, getting a little tangled. Alright, now to do the other side of the butterfly, we're going to pull up our yarn in the stitch on the opposite side, so just 1 stitch over from the puff stitch. Pull up a loop, and then we're going to add 2 single crochets, and then 1 half double crochet. And then working into the tip of the puff stitch, we're going to do a double crochet, a half double crochet, a single crochet, and then working down into each one of our chains here, we're going to add a single crochet, a single crochet, and another single crochet. Then we'll slip stitch into that stitch in between the 2 puff stitches, and then we're going to work back up the other side, adding 2 single crochets, well actually 3 single crochets, and then we're going to add in the tip of the puff stitch a single crochet, a half double crochet, and a double crochet. And then working down the other side, we're going to add a half double crochet, 2 single crochets, and then we're going to chain 1 before we slip stitch into the same stitch that we worked this puff stitch into. Oops, let me finish my last single crochet. Like so. Let me fasten off so you can see what it looks like here. And there we go. Alright. Okay, it's time to finish with our final outline of our butterfly. Look how cute this one is. Oh my god, I love this. Okay. So we are gonna now pull up our final outline color in that middle stitch in between where we left off with the antenna and where we started like the puff stitch right here. And we're gonna pull up our outline color there. And then working into our first chain, we're gonna add a single crochet. And then a single crochet into all 3 of the next 3 stitches. So there'll be 4 single crochets total to start, and then we're going to add a single crochet and a half double crochet in the next stitch. We'll chain 2. You can chain 3 if this one's kind of hard for you. And then we're going to slip stitch into the top of our half double crochet to make a picket stitch. And then we're going to add a single crochet into that same stitch we worked those first 2 stitches into. And then we'll add 4 single crochet down into the next 4 stitches. And then we're going to chain 1. There should be 1 stitch left. We're going to skip that one, and we're going to slip stitch into the same stitch we've been slip stitching into in between our puff stitches. And then we'll chain 1 again, skip that first single crochet, working on the next single crochet. We're going to add 4 total single crochet in the next 4 stitches. Then we should be working into that DC at the top of the other puff stitch. We're going to add a single crochet, a half double crochet, and chain 2. Slip stitch into the top of our half double crochet. You can chain 3 if that makes it easier. You can do a single crochet into the next stitch. And then we're going to do just 3 single crochet to finish this off. And we'll finish by slip stitching into that next stitch. And then you can fasten off. I'll show you what that looks like. What's that, Key? He gave a huff. All right, there we go. How pretty. And then if you like, actually sew that down. Okay, so now we will pull up that same color and that same stitch on the opposite side. So it should be so there's a single crochet at the top of the half double crochet foundation stitch there. And pull up a loop. And then we will work 3 single crochets into these 3 stitches. And then working into the tip of that DC, we're going to add a single crochet, a half double crochet, chain 2, slip stitch into the tip of the half double crochet, and then single crochet into that same stitch. Then we're going to do 4 single crochet. Chain 1, slip stitch into the stitch in between the puff stitches, chain 1, and then we're going to skip a stitch and do 4 single crochet. And then we'll do a single crochet, a half double crochet, chain 2, slip stitch into the tip of the half double crochet, single crochet into that same stitch, and then 4 single crochet to finish off. That 4th single crochet will be into that final chain that you had made from the previous row here. And then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch, that stitch in between the puff stitch and the antenna, and then we can fasten off. I will show you what that looks like. Alright. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to hang by your antennas for a cute little dangling butterfly, or use it as an applique. You can attach it with pretty loosely so it looks like it's an actual butterfly just sitting on something, or you can actually sew it down so it lays pretty flat. Whatever you want to do. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, follow, subscribe, and if you can, go buy a pattern. It really helps me keep this business going. Thanks.